Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Meridian and watched the stars through the main window. The ship moved slowly through space like all human vessels did. Their fusion engines were old and basic, but they worked well enough to get from one star system to another. It took months to cross between systems, but humans had learned to be patient with their travels. Morrison had been captain of the Meridian for 5 years now. His crew trusted him and he trusted them. They were exploring the outer edge of human space looking for new worlds that might be good for colonies. So far, they had found 3 planets that looked promising. The science team was excited about the discoveries. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker sat at her tactical station running the daily sensor sweeps. She was good at her job and never missed anything important. Her screens showed the usual empty space around them. No other ships anywhere nearby. Just stars and planets and the cold darkness between them. First Officer Danny Rodriguez walked over to Morrison with a cup of coffee. Rodriguez had been with Morrison for 3 years and they worked well together. He was smart and careful and always thought before he spoke. Morrison appreciated that in an officer. "Everything looks quiet out here, Captain," Rodriguez said as he handed Morrison the coffee. "The science team thinks we might find another good planet in the next system over." Morrison nodded and took a sip of the hot coffee. "Good. Earth needs more places for people to live. Population is still growing and we need room to expand." Parker suddenly sat up straight at her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she checked her readings again. Something had caught her attention. Morrison noticed the change in her posture immediately. "What do you have?" Parker Morrison asked, walking over to her station. "Unknown contacts, sir," Parker said, pointing at her screen. "Multiple ships coming in fast from the outer system. I count at least 50 vessels, and they are moving faster than anything I have ever seen." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Unknown ships in this empty part of space meant only one thing. First contact with an alien species. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the galaxy. Now they were about to find out they were not. "Red alert," Morrison ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Communications open a channel to the unknown vessels." The bridge lights changed to red and alarms sounded throughout the ship. The crew moved quickly to their positions. Everyone knew what to do. They had trained for this moment many times, but none of them thought it would actually happen. Rodriguez took his position at the communications station. "Channel open, sir," he reported. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship USS Meridian." Morrison said clearly, "We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact with your people." The response came quickly. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them recognized. Then suddenly the words changed to perfect English as their translation systems kicked in. "Pathetic humans," the alien voice said with obvious contempt. "We are the Vial-3 Dominion, and you are insects crawling through space in your primitive vessels. We have watched your slow ship struggling between stars, and we are not impressed." Morrison exchanged glances with Rodriguez. This was not going well. The aliens sounded hostile, and they clearly thought humans were weak. Morrison tried to stay calm and diplomatic. "We mean no threat to your people," Morrison said. "Perhaps we can discuss trade or cultural exchange. There is much our species might learn from each other." The alien voice laughed. It was an ugly sound that made the bridge crew uncomfortable. "Learn from you. We have conquered dozens of species across this galaxy. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your ships move like dead rocks through space while ours dance between the stars." Parker whispered to Morrison, "Sir, their ships are still approaching. Speed is incredible. Our computers can barely track their movement patterns." Morrison nodded. The situation was getting worse by the minute. These aliens clearly saw humans as inferior, and that usually meant trouble. In his experience, bullies rarely stopped at just words. "What do you want from us?" Morrison asked the aliens. "We want you gone," the alien commander replied. "You humans have spread to several worlds in this sector. That stops now. You have 72 hours to evacuate 3 of your colonies, or we will destroy every living thing on those planets." The bridge fell silent. Morrison felt anger building inside him but kept his voice steady. "Those colonies have millions of innocent people. Women and children who have done nothing to harm you. We do not care about your weak spawn, the alien said. The Veil 3 Dominion claims this sector of space. You will leave or you will die. There is no third option. Morrison looked at his crew. Parker was checking their tactical situation. Rodriguez was recording everything for Fleet Command. The science team looked terrified, but they were still working at their stations. These were good people, and they deserved better than this threat. Which colonies? Morrison asked quietly. New. Dallas, Haven's Rest, and Bright Hope, the alien commander said. 72 hours human, not 1 minute longer. The communication ended. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of various systems. Morrison stood there for a moment thinking about what had just happened. First contact with aliens, and it had gone about as badly as possible. Parker, what do we know about their fleet? Morrison asked. Over 200 ships, sir, Parker reported. All much faster than us. Weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Energy readings suggest they have power systems far beyond our current technology. Can we outrun them? Rodriguez asked. Parker shook her head. Not even close. They could catch us easily if they wanted to. Morrison walked back to his captain's chair and sat down heavily. 3 colonies. Millions of people. 72 hours. The math was simple and ugly. Human ships were too slow to evacuate that many people in such a short time. Even if every ship in the human fleet helped, they could not save everyone. Set course for New Dallas, Morrison ordered. Maximum speed. Send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have a situation. The Meridian turned toward human space and accelerated as fast as its old fusion engines could manage. Behind them, the alien fleet followed at a leisurely pace like hunters chasing wounded prey. Morrison stared out at the stars and wondered if humanity was about to face extinction. Admiral Karen Stone read Morrison's message 3 times before she believed what she was seeing. Aliens. Hostile aliens with superior technology demanding the evacuation of 3 human colonies in 72 hours. She had always known this. Day might come, but hoped it never would. Stone sat in her office at Fleet Command on New Geneva Station. Through her window, she could see dozens of human ships moving slowly between the stars. They looked peaceful and harmless. Exactly the way they were supposed to look. Stone had spent 30 years making sure of that. She pressed a button on her desk. Get me Chief Engineer Pete Collins, she said to her assistant. Collins appeared on her screen within minutes. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been working on classified projects for most of his career. Very few people knew what he really did for the human fleet. Admiral Collins said, I assume you got Morrison's report. I did, Stone replied. How long do we need? 6 hours to implement full Protocol Omega across the fleet, Collins said. Another 2 hours for final system checks. We have been preparing for this for 3 decades. Everything is ready. Stone nodded. Protocol Omega was humanity's biggest secret. Every human warship built in the last 30 years carried hidden modifications that had been disguised as standard maintenance systems and backup equipment. Even most of the crew members had no idea what their ships could really do. Do it, Stone said. Send the activation codes to all fleet commanders. Use the old encryption keys. And Collins, make sure our people understand. This is not a drill anymore. Collins smiled for the first time in years. Understood, Admiral. Initiating Protocol Omega now. The screen went dark. Stone leaned back in her chair and thought about what came next. The Veil 3 thought they were dealing with primitive humans in slow ships. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Meanwhile, the Veil 3 fleet moved through space toward the 3 human colonies. Fleet Commander Zarketh stood on his command ship and watched the tactical displays. His ships were fast and powerful. Human vessels looked like ancient relics compared to Veil 3 technology. Status report, Zarketh demanded from his officers. All ships maintaining formation, his tactical officer reported. The human vessels are fleeing toward their colonies as expected. They cannot outrun us if we choose to pursue. Zarketh made a sound that might have been laughter. Let them run. It will make the final hunt more interesting. Have our scouts destroyed any human outposts yet? 3 mining stations and 2 patrol ships, Commander, his weapons officer replied. All were destroyed easily. Human weapons barely scratched our shields. Excellent, Zarketh said. Broadcast the destruction to human space. Let them see what happens to those who resist the Dominion. The Valkyrie had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy. It was always the same pattern. They would arrive with overwhelming force and demand surrender. Most species gave up without a fight. Those that resisted were crushed quickly and completely. The Dominion showed no mercy to those who defied them. Back on the USS Meridian, Morrison was pushing his ship as hard as it would go. The fusion engines were running at maximum output, but they were still painfully slow compared to the alien vessels. His crew worked frantically to squeeze every bit of speed from their systems. How long to New Dallas? Morrison asked Rodriguez. 18 hours at current speed, Rodriguez replied. If we push the engines any harder, we risk a complete breakdown. Morrison cursed under his breath. 18 hours to reach one colony. That left barely 50 hours to warn the other 2. Even with every human ship in the sector helping, they could not evacuate millions of people in time. Parker looked up from her station. Sir, I am reading massive energy signatures from the direction of human space. Something big is happening. Morrison frowned. Define massive. Power outputs that dwarf anything in our databases, Parker said. Whatever is generating those readings has more energy than our entire colonial fleet combined. Rodriguez checked his communications panel. Sir, I am getting coded transmissions from Fleet Command. Priority Alpha clearance required. Morrison entered his command codes. A message from Admiral Stone appeared on his screen. Morrison read it quickly and his eyes widened. Protocol Omega had been activated. After 30 years of waiting, the human fleet was finally showing its true capabilities. All crew members report to duty stations, Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. We are implementing emergency modifications to all ship systems. This is not a drill. Chief Engineer Collins transmitted detailed instructions to every human ship. Engineering teams across the fleet began removing external hull panels and activating hidden systems. What the crews found beneath the outer hulls amazed even the officers who knew about Protocol Omega. The USS Meridian's chief engineer, Linda Hayes, watched her screens in wonder as hidden antimatter reactors came online. The ship's true power system had been concealed beneath fake fusion generators for years. Now the real engines were finally being activated. Antimatter flow is stable, Hayes reported to Morrison. Stealth systems are powering up. Weapon systems are coming online. Sir, this ship has capabilities I never imagined. Similar reports came from human vessels throughout the sector. Ships that had seemed slow and primitive were revealing advanced technology that surpassed anything the Valkyrie possessed. Cloaking, devices, faster than light drives, and weapons that could tear holes in space itself. At Haven's Rest Colony, Governor Ben Taylor received Morrison's warning about the alien threat. Taylor was a practical man who had spent his life preparing for emergencies. He immediately began implementing evacuation procedures, but he also activated other preparations. Colonel Amy Foster, report to my office immediately. Taylor ordered. Foster arrived within minutes. She was a tough woman who had served in the Colonial Marines for 15 years. She commanded a regiment that was supposedly responsible for colony security. In reality, her people were much more than simple security guards. Governor Foster said as she entered his office. Amy, we have a situation, Taylor said, showing her Morrison's message. Hostile aliens are coming and they want us gone. How long do you need to prepare? Foster smiled grimly. My people have been ready for 30 years, Governor. The evacuation is a good cover, but we both know what this colony really is. Haven's Rest looked like a normal farming colony, but it was actually a massive military base hidden beneath civilian buildings. The colonists were real farmers and workers, but they were also trained soldiers. The Valkyrie were expecting to find helpless civilians. Instead, they would face one of humanity's most advanced military installations. Across human space, other colonies were implementing similar preparations. What the aliens thought were weak settlements were actually fortified positions with hidden weapons and trained defenders. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this exact situation. The Val-3 fleet continued its advance completely unaware of what was waiting for them. Zarketh studied reports from his scouts and felt confident about the coming battle. Human ships were slow and their weapons were primitive. The colonists would surrender or die. Either outcome was acceptable to the Dominion. Estimated time to the first human colony, Zarketh asked his navigation officer. 46 hours, Commander, came the reply. Our ships could reach the colonies in half that time if we increased speed. No, Zarketh said. Let them have time to think about what is coming. Fear makes some species more reasonable. Though if these humans are like the others we have conquered, they will probably fight uselessly until the end. The Val-3 commander had no idea that human fear had already turned into something much more dangerous. Across human space, the slow ships were shedding their disguises and revealing capabilities that would soon turn the hunters into the hunted. The Val-3 fleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly when Zarketh had planned. His ships moved into attack formation with practiced precision. Ahead of them waited 30 human vessels arranged in what looked like a pathetic defensive line. The humans had not run after all. They were going to fight. Look at them, Zarketh said to his officers as they studied the human formation. 30 ships against our 200. They still use those primitive fusion drives. This will be over in minutes. His tactical officer nodded. Their weapons are basic energy cannons and missile systems, Commander. Our shields can handle anything. They can throw at us. Should we demand their surrender again? No, Zarketh replied. They chose to fight. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Dominion. All ships attack. The Val-3 fleet surged forward at incredible speed. Their ships danced through space with grace and power that made human vessels look clumsy by comparison. Energy beams lanced out from Val-3 weapons and struck the outer human ships. Several human vessels exploded immediately. Captain Morrison watched the battle begin from the bridge of the USS Meridian. His ship was part of the human defensive line, but he was not worried. Everything was going exactly according to Admiral Stone's plan. The Val-3 were about to receive the shock of their lives. Damage reports, Morrison asked Parker, even though he already knew the answer. 3 ships destroyed, sir, Parker replied. The outer hulls took all the damage as expected. No actual casualties. Morrison nodded. The ships that had exploded were just shedding their fake outer hulls. Beneath those disguises were the real human warships. Ships with technology that the Val-3 could not even imagine. Admiral Stone watched the battle from her command center on New Geneva Station. Tactical displays showed the Val-3 fleet moving confidently through the human formation. The aliens thought they were winning. They had no idea they had just flown into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. All human ships report. Ready, Admiral? Her communications officer announced. Stone smiled coldly. Execute Protocol Omega. Show them what humanity can really do. Across the battle zone, every human ship received the same single-word command. Execute. What happened next changed everything. The remaining human vessels suddenly dropped their external hulls like discarded clothing. Beneath the fake fusion, drives and primitive weapons were ships that defied everything the Val-3 thought they knew about human technology. The USS Meridian transformed before Zarketh's eyes. What had looked like an old exploration ship became a sleek warship bristling with weapons that hurt to look at. Engines that had seemed slow and simple revealed themselves as antimatter drives capable of incredible speed. What? Zarketh gasped as his sensors registered the energy readings from the human ships. That is impossible. Their technology cannot. Morrison's ship accelerated to speeds that made Val-3 vessels look stationary. In seconds, the Meridian crossed the distance between the two fleets and opened fire with weapons that tore through Val-3 shields like they were made of paper. The alien commander watched in horror as a dozen of his ships disappeared in brilliant flashes of light. The humans were not using energy beams or missiles. Their weapons seemed to make enemy ships simply cease to exist. Matter itself was being unmade at the quantum level. Evasive maneuvers, Zarketh screamed at his crew. All ships scatter. Get us out of weapons range. But there was nowhere to run. More human ships decloaked around the Val-3 fleet. Ships that had been invisible suddenly appeared on all sides, firing weapons that operated beyond Vel-3 understanding of physics. Some human vessels seemed to phase in and out of normal space, making them impossible to target. Parker coordinated the Meridian's attack with deadly precision. Her tactical systems had capabilities that made Vel-3 computers look like children's toys. She could track and target hundreds of enemy ships simultaneously while predicting their movement patterns with perfect accuracy. Targeting their command ship, Parker reported to Morrison. Multiple weapon locks confirmed. Fire, Morrison ordered. The Meridian's main guns spoke with voices of annihilation. Energy beams that existed in 11 dimensions struck Zarketh's flagship. The alien ship's shields collapsed instantly. Its hull began to dissolve as human weapons rewrote the fundamental laws of physics in the space around the target. Zar quote, Keth felt his ship dying around him. Systems failed throughout the vessel as human weapons ate through his hull like acid through flesh. He tried to send a distress signal but discovered that the humans had jammed all Vel-3 communications. His fleet was cut off from the rest of the Dominion. How? He whispered as his bridge filled with smoke and sparks. How did they hide this technology? Chief Engineer Collins was asking himself the same question from his position aboard Admiral Stone's flagship. Not how humanity had hidden their capabilities, but how they had managed to keep the secret for so long. Every human ship built in the last 30 years contained technology that was centuries ahead of anything the Vel-3 possessed, Admiral Collins reported to Stone. All systems performing beyond expectations. The enemy fleet is completely outclassed. They cannot match our speed, maneuverability, or weapons. Stone watched her tactical displays as human ships systematically destroyed the Vel-3 fleet. What had looked like a hopeless battle was turning into a one-sided massacre. The aliens who had come to exterminate humanity were being exterminated themselves. Rodriguez opened communications with the surviving Vel-3 ships. His voice was cold and professional as he addressed the alien commanders. Attention, Vel-3 vessels. You demanded our surrender. Now we demand yours. The response was immediate panic. Alien voices filled the communication channels, begging for mercy and trying to understand what had happened. Some Vel-3 ships attempted to flee, but human vessels easily caught them. The aliens who had boasted of their speed found themselves helplessly outmatched. Colonel Foster watched the space battle from Haven's rest colony. Her hidden sensors showed the complete destruction of the Vel-3 fleet. But she knew this was only the beginning. The aliens had sent a scouting force first. The main Vel-3 fleet would be much larger and more dangerous. Governor Foster said to Ben Taylor, "We need to interrogate the survivors. Find out how many ships the Dominion really has and where their homeworld is located." Taylor nodded. "Do whatever is necessary, Colonel. If there are more of them coming, we need to know about it." On his dying flagship, Zarketh realized the terrible truth. The Dominion had made a fatal mistake. They had attacked a species that was far more advanced than anyone had realized. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. His ship's power failed, and emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the bridge. Zarketh could hear his crew screaming as hull breaches opened. To space. In minutes, his flagship would be nothing but debris. But before he died, he managed to activate one final system. A small probe ejected from his ship and immediately cloaked itself. The probe contained all the tactical data about the human ships and their incredible weapons. If the probe could reach Dominion space, the main fleet would know what they were really facing. Morrison noticed the probe launch but decided not to pursue it. Admiral Stone had already planned for this possibility. Let one alien escape. Let him warn his people about humanity's true power. Fear would make the next battle even more interesting. As the last Vel-3 ship exploded in brilliant light, Morrison looked out at the stars. The easy part was over. Now came the real test. Somewhere out there was a Dominion fleet with millions of ships. They would come seeking revenge for this defeat. When they arrived, humanity would be ready for them. The battle had lasted less than an hour. 200 Vel-3 warships had been reduced to scattered debris. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. It was the most one-sided victory in galactic history. But Morrison knew it was also just the opening move in a much larger game. The real war was about to begin. The captured Vel-3 survivors sat in restraints aboard human ships while teams of interrogators worked to extract information from them. The aliens were terrified and confused. Everything they thought they knew about humanity had been proven wrong in the span of a single hour. Commander Rodriguez led the interrogation team aboard the USS Meridian. The prisoner before him was a Vel-3 tactical officer named Veltar, who had been pulled from a damaged ship before it exploded. Veltar's 4 arms shook with fear as he stared at the humans around him. "How many ships does the Dominion have?" Rodriguez asked calmly. Vel quote. Tar remained silent at first, but the human interrogators were patient and skilled. Eventually, the alien began to talk. What he revealed made even the experienced human officers feel sick to their stomachs. "The Dominion fleet numbers over 3 million vessels," Veltar said in broken English. "Our expansion has continued for 800 years. We have conquered 47 species and taken control of 1,200 star systems." Rodriguez exchanged glances with the other interrogators. 3 million ships was far more than anyone had expected. Even with their advanced technology, humanity would be badly outnumbered in any direct confrontation. "What happened to the species you conquered?" Rodriguez asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Exterminated," Veltar replied matter-of-factly. "The Dominion does not permit inferior species to exist. They are eliminated once their worlds are claimed for our use." The interrogation room fell silent. 47 extinct civilizations, billions of lives snuffed out by Vel-3 expansion. Rodriguez felt anger building inside him but kept his voice steady and professional. "Where is your homeworld?" he asked. Vel quote. Tar hesitated for a moment, then provided the coordinates. The Vel-3 capital was located 600 light-years from human space. It was heavily defended and surrounded by massive fleet bases that could deploy millions of warships. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Pete Collins was examining captured Vel-3 technology aboard Admiral Stone's flagship. The alien equipment was advanced, but not as sophisticated as the humans had expected. The Vel-3 relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers rather than technological superiority. "Their weapons are powerful but crude," Collins reported to Stone. "Energy output is impressive, but efficiency is poor. Their shields can handle massive damage, but they drain power quickly. Most importantly, their computers are at least 50 years behind ours." Stone nodded as she studied the technical reports. "So they win through numbers and aggression rather than innovation." "Exactly," Collins confirmed. "They find a species with inferior technology and crush them before they can adapt or improve. It has worked for them for centuries, but they have never faced an opponent with hidden capabilities like ours." On Haven's Rest colony, Colonel Amy Foster was dealing with a different type of prisoner. Vel-3 ground forces had attempted to land on several human worlds only to discover that the helpless colonists were actually trained soldiers with advanced weapons. The alien troops had been equipped for fighting primitive humans with basic firearms. Instead, they faced colonial marines using powered armor and energy weapons that could punch through Vel-3 battlesuits like tissue paper. The invasion force had been wiped out in minutes. Foster interrogated the few surviving Vel-3 soldiers in a secure facility beneath the colony. Like their space-based counterparts, the ground troops were shocked to discover humanity's true capabilities. "Your people lied to us," one Vel-3 prisoner accused Foster. "You pretended to be weak when you are strong. This is not honorable combat." Foster laughed bitterly. "You came here to exterminate every man, woman, and child on this planet, and you talk about honor. Your people have wiped out 47 civilizations. Did any of them deserve honorable combat?" The alien had no answer for that. Captain Morrison was analyzing the tactical data from the battle when Parker brought him disturbing news from the interrogations. The probe that had escaped from Zarketh's flagship had successfully reached the outer edge of the system before disappearing into hyperspace. "How long before it reaches Dominion space?" Morrison asked. "Approximately 6 weeks based on Vel-3 faster than light capabilities," Parker replied. "The main fleet will know about our true technology within 2 months." Morrison frowned. 2 months was not much time to prepare for a war against 3 million enemy ships. Even with humanity's technological advantages, those were terrible odds. Admiral, Stone was thinking the same thing as she met with her senior commanders in the secure briefing room aboard New Geneva Station. The holographic display showed the relative positions of human and Valtteri territories. The numbers were daunting. We have perhaps 60,000 ships that can be equipped with full protocol Omega modifications, Stone said to her officers. The Dominion has 50 times that number. Even with our technological superiority, we cannot win a direct confrontation. What about the colonies? Asked General Robert Hayes, who commanded human ground forces. If we evacuate our people to more defensible positions, we could reduce the number of targets they can attack. No, Stone replied firmly. Evacuation would tell them we are afraid. More importantly, it would give them time to study our technology and develop countermeasures. We need to end this war quickly before they can adapt. Collins spoke up from his position near the tactical display. Admiral, if I may suggest an alternative approach. The Dominion has always faced inferior opponents. They have never developed strategies for fighting an equal or superior enemy. We could use that against them. Stone listened carefully as Collins outlined his plan. It was audacious and dangerous, but it might be humanity's only chance to survive the coming storm. Instead of waiting for the Dominion fleet to attack human space, they would take the war to the enemy. How long would you need to prepare, Stone asked. 3 weeks to modify our ships for deep space operations, Collins replied. Another week to position our forces. We could be ready to attack their homeworld before their main fleet even receives warning about our capabilities. The room was quiet as the human commanders considered the proposal. It was a massive gamble. If they failed, humanity would be left defenseless against Dominion retaliation. But if they succeeded, they could end the war before it truly began. Morrison studied the star charts showing the route to Valtteri space. It would be a long, dangerous journey through unexplored territory. His ship and crew would be part of the advance force that would scout enemy positions and identify targets. The prisoners provided detailed information about Dominion fleet deployments, Rodriguez reported. Their ships are concentrated around major industrial worlds and the capital system. If we hit those targets simultaneously, we could cripple their ability to respond. Foster added her perspective from the colonial defense standpoint. My people have been analyzing Valtteri ground combat tactics. They rely heavily on orbital support and supply lines. If we can control space around their worlds, their ground forces become much less effective. Stone made her decision. We attack. Collins began immediate preparations for Operation Deep Strike. All fleet commanders are to receive sealed orders within 6 hours. We launch in 4 weeks. The meeting ended and the human officers dispersed to their various duties. Each of them understood the stakes. Humanity would either strike a decisive blow against the Dominion or face extinction at the hands of 3 million enemy warships. As Morrison returned to his ship, he thought about the irony of the situation. The Valtteri had seen humanity's slow ships and assumed they were dealing with primitives. Now those same aliens were dead or captured, while human vessels prepared to carry the war directly to the heart of the Dominion. The hunters had become the hunted, and soon the Valtteri would learn what it felt like to face an enemy that was stronger, faster, and more determined than they had ever imagined possible. The real war was about to begin, and humanity intended to end it on their own terms. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Valtteri home system, like a storm made of metal and energy. 50,000 ships materialized simultaneously in a perfect attack formation that had taken weeks to plan and execute. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched as her tactical displays filled with enemy contacts. "My God," whispered her communications officer as he stared at the sensor readings. "There are over 2 million ships in this system." Stone felt a moment of doubt as she saw the massive Valtteri fleet spread throughout their home system. Orbital platforms the size of moons surrounded the capital world. Defense stations bristled with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The Dominion had turned their homeworld into the most heavily fortified position in galactic history. "Admiral," Collins reported from his engineering station. "All human ships report ready. Stealth systems are active and our approach was undetected. We have complete tactical surprise." Stone nodded grimly. Surprise was humanity's greatest advantage, and it would not last long. Once the shooting started, the Veil-3 would respond with everything they had. The next few hours would determine whether humanity survived or joined the 47 extinct species in the Dominion's database. Captain Morrison's USS Meridian was part of the advanced strike force assigned to neutralize the outer defense platforms. His ship moved silently through space, invisible to Veil-3 sensors, while targeting the most dangerous enemy installations. Weapons locked on target Alpha 7, Parker reported from her tactical station. Enemy platform appears to be a command and control facility. Taking it out should disrupt their coordination. Morrison studied the massive space station through his ship's enhanced sensors. The platform was larger than most human cities and armed with enough firepower to flatten a continent. In a few minutes, it would be nothing but debris. Rodriguez monitored Dominion communications from his station. The aliens were going about their normal business, completely unaware that death was approaching them at faster than light speeds. Their arrogance had made them careless, and that carelessness was about to cost them everything. All ships stand by, Stone broadcast to her fleet using tight beam communications that the Veil-3 could not detect. Operation Deep Strike begins in 60 seconds. Remember what these monsters did to 47 civilizations. Show them no mercy. The countdown began. Human captains throughout the fleet made final preparations for battle. Weapon systems that had been hidden for 30 years powered up to full capacity. Shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons activated around each vessel. The slow ships the Veil-3 had mocked were about to reveal their true nature. Execute, Stone commanded. 50,000 human warships opened fire simultaneously. The darkness of space erupted in brilliant flashes of light as weapons that operated beyond normal physics struck Veil-3 targets across the entire star system. Defense platforms that had stood for centuries vanished in microseconds. Orbital shipyards that had built millions of warships were reduced to expanding clouds of plasma. On the Veil-3 homeworld, Supreme Commander Kethvar felt his palace shake as shockwaves from the orbital bombardment reached the surface. His personal guards rushed into his command chamber with reports of massive explosions throughout the system. The Supreme Commander could not believe what he was hearing. Impossible, Kethvar snarled as he studied the tactical displays. No enemy fleet could penetrate our defenses. Our sensors would have detected any approaching ships days ago. His chief tactical officer was frantically trying to coordinate a response, but the human attack had been too sudden and too precise. Every major command facility was either destroyed or under heavy bombardment. The Dominion fleet was scattered and confused without central coordination. Morrison, S ship, tore through a formation of Veil-3 cruisers like a blade through paper. His weapons reached out across impossible distances to strike targets that should have been beyond range. Enemy ships exploded or simply ceased to exist as human technology rewrote the laws of physics around them. Target the fleet bases, Morrison ordered Parker. Destroy their ability to launch reinforcements. The Meridian accelerated toward a massive naval facility that housed over 10,000 Veil-3 warships. The base's defensive systems opened fire, but their energy beams passed harmlessly through the human ship's phase-shifted shields. Morrison's return fire carved the installation apart like a surgeon's scalpel. Collins coordinated the technical aspects of the assault from Admiral Stone's flagship. His modified weapon systems were performing beyond his wildest expectations. Human ships that had pretended to be slow and primitive for decades were now demonstrating capabilities that made Veil-3 technology look like Stone Age tools. Admiral, Collins reported, enemy resistance is collapsing faster than projected. Their command structure has been completely disrupted. Most of their ships are operating independently without coordination. Stone watched her tactical displays as red enemy contacts winked out of existence by the thousands. The Veil-3 had built their empire on the assumption that they would always face inferior opponents. They had never developed tactics for fighting. An enemy with superior technology, and that weakness was destroying them. Colonel Foster's intelligence reports had proven accurate. The Dominion military relied heavily on centralized command and control. With their communication networks destroyed and their commanders dead, the vast Veil-3 fleet was reduced to individual ships acting without purpose or coordination. Commander Rodriguez intercepted frantic alien transmissions as Veil-3 captains tried to understand what was happening to them. Some begged for mercy. Others demanded to know how humans had developed such advanced weapons. A few attempted to surrender, but Morrison had his orders from Admiral Stone. No quarter would be given to a species that had exterminated 47 civilizations. The battle raged for 6 hours as human forces systematically destroyed every Vel 3 military installation in the home system. Orbital platforms that had taken centuries to build were reduced to scrap metal. Shipyards that could have built fleets to threaten human space burned like artificial suns. The mighty Dominion was dying, and its leaders could do nothing to stop it. Supreme Commander Kethvar made his last stand in the Planetary Defense Center, deep beneath his capital city. His remaining forces had established a perimeter around the facility, but human ground troops were already breaking through the outer defenses. How did they hide their true capabilities? Kethvar asked his surviving advisors. Our intelligence. Reports indicated that humans were primitive. Their ships moved slowly and their weapons were basic energy cannons. They deceived us, his intelligence chief replied. For decades they maintained false appearances while secretly developing technology beyond our understanding. We underestimated them and now we are paying the price. Above them, human ships continued their methodical destruction of everything the Dominion had built. Stone had given her captains specific orders to target military installations and industrial facilities while avoiding civilian population centers when possible. This was not genocide, but it was the complete dismantling of a military empire. Morrison received new orders from Fleet Command as the last Vel 3 warships in the home system were destroyed. His ship was to proceed to the outer territories and hunt down any remaining Dominion forces. The message was clear. This war would end with the complete elimination of Vel 3 military power. Set course for the Kelthak system, Morrison ordered his crew. Intelligence indicates there is a major fleet base there with over 50,000 ships. Rodriguez plotted their course while Parker began analyzing tactical data about their next target. The hunt for surviving Dominion forces would continue until every last warship was destroyed. Humanity had learned from the mistakes of the 47 extinct species. They would not show mercy to an enemy that had shown none to others. His ship jumped into hyperspace. Morrison reflected on how completely the situation had changed. Less than 2 months ago, the Vel 3 had seen humanity's slow ships and assumed they were facing primitives. Now those same aliens were extinct or fleeing in terror as human forces swept through their territory. The galaxy would remember this lesson for a long time. Never assume that a species is as helpless as it appears. The humans had proven that patience and deception could be more powerful than raw aggression. The slow ships had been humanity's greatest weapon because they had convinced their enemies to underestimate them. Admiral Stone stood on her bridge and watched as the last Vel 3 installations in the home system were reduced to debris. The war was not over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. The Dominion would fall, and its surviving members would either submit to human authority or join their commanders in death. The hunters had finally met their match and discovered that they were not the apex predators they believed themselves to be. Humanity had claimed that title and would defend it against all challengers.